Putting on the front, you know, that's
you have those people who think that.
Putting on the front, man, that's a good question. How do I feel about that? To be honest, I don't feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think about that. I don't feel like I have time to worry about what the next person thinks or feels about me. I feel like there's a lot of societal changes. We're entering the 2020, which is like social media, digital, informational age, technological age. And just 20 years ago, it was weird to talk to somebody on a chat room that you ain't know. And now you in their DMs trying to figure out where y'all can meet up. And that's totally normal, right?
Yeah.
So where we at, you got to work with the times. So how people think about me, especially since I'm entering into this entertainment space, you can't think about that. You absolutely can't worry about that.
Other people's opinion. Yeah.
You have to just be calculated internally how you make your decisions. Like I said earlier, you know, some places you got to move a certain way. You can't move a certain way at this place or that place. You can't put yourself in a situation where you trick yourself out of your position because you wanted to just keep it real or make sure. You know, people squander money away because they don't know how to speak the language. And just make the decision on who it is you want to be and then move in that. I don't want to just be one person. I feel like I have a lot of different things I can provide and offer to people. And you got to know when it's time to turn into somebody else. And it's not being inauthentic. And anybody who feels like I'm being inauthentic is probably just watching from afar and doesn't know me personally. So why would I even consider that? You know
I agree. I feel the same way. What I want to talk about next is Juice WRLD.
Juice.
So the reason I want to talk about him, as you know, he did just pass away. And he passed away from taking too many Percocets, trying to hide them from the police.
Is that the official autopsy report?
That's what. I don't know if it's the official autopsy report, but that's what I've been seeing and reading and all the news that he
I know he had cardiac arrest.
Okay, yeah.
He had a heart attack, but I mean, it could be a result of ingesting.
Yeah, that's what I read, that it was from he had too many Percocets in him. Why I want to bring him up is because I feel like this is too many. This is too many people in the rap game. Just, you know, Mac Miller and what was the other guy?
You talking about
is it Peep?
Lil Peep.
Lil Peep. Okay, yeah. I know they're not black and they're not, you know, they're not in the same community as we are, but still with Juice WRLD and him being black, I feel like it's been so they've been so, the hip hop community has been so, what's the word?
We've been under attack.
Yes.
We've taken too many losses.
Yes, and I feel that way because they're broadcasting that this is the cool thing to do to these younger kids. Popping
drugs.
Who is they? The ones who are like Juice WRLD, you know, the ones who are making it seem cool to pop these drugs, who are rapping about popping perks and this and that. You know, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But by all means, but I feel like rap is music is so influential. And I feel like a lot of these young kids are following in these footsteps and they're looking up to these people. And I just feel like it needs to come to a stop because I don't want to see any of my black brothers die from something like this. You know, he was doing his thing and, you know, and making his getting big and making his music and I was proud of watching him, you know. Like I said, being a young black man, I was proud of him. And the fact that he had to go out like this because of drugs, it saddens my heart. So what do you feel about, you know, like I said, that a lot of these rappers are making it seem cool to these kids, like, oh, popping drugs and this and that?
I definitely have my own thoughts about that. Taking it back to like 2010. Well, first of all, rest in peace. You know what I mean? Because it's a tragedy. 21 years old. Like I'm 25. You know what I mean? Like to lose my life 4 years ago. That would have been terrible for my mother, I know. You know what I mean? Like my mother, my family, my sisters losing me at 21, me losing any of them at that young of an age especially. I lost my brother last year at 26. So like I know how tough it is to just deal with a loss. And again, just like when we talked about Miss Crawford, prayers to the family, prayers for getting through the holiday season for sure. But yeah, taking it back to 2010, I grew up in a situation where I really wasn't allowed to listen to too much music with cursing in it, but I didn't want to either. I wasn't really into, and it wasn't that they were bad. I mean, I love Lil Wayne, but I just didn't necessarily support what he was talking about a whole lot. Like, I just didn't relate to me. It wasn't that it was bad. And I still feel like there's a place for that. You need that music. You need party music. But there has to be a balance. And my balance back in the day when everybody was following really like Tyga and Rack City, Rack City, you know, strip clubs and all that. And all that. I was fishing through the tapes for like Friday Night Lights and Warm Up and Comeback Season and you know, Macadelic and like there were tapes that got me through. And my whole point in even bringing back that is as we fast forward to where we are right now, the kids don't really have too many examples as it stands where they can just fish through some old tapes. I was being chastised for listening to Talib Kweli and Common. My friends never wanted to pass me the aux cord because they felt like I was going to play some shit that they felt was corny. Even though for me, it spoke to my soul.
I love them.
Exactly. So I guess what really needs to happen now, it's not that people need to stop promoting some kind of image. I mean, the reality is that is what the hell they doing. They're talking about a life they live, and I think there's a place for that. I think there's time and place to listen to certain type of music. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with these young kids being young. However, I think there's a certain level of accountability artists have to take when it comes to what it is they want from their demographic. Now, what you speak to these kids about what you do, that's one thing. What you encourage them to do is another thing. If you're being authentic to yourself, I'll never tell you not to make music that you trust and that you believe.
Okay.
I think it's a lot worse if that's not even something that you support and you're just doing it for the dollars because you are costing young kids their life because they look up to you. And of course, there are people who don't really feed into that type of music who stay true to themselves. Do their album sales take a lot of hits sometimes? Sometimes. Being authentic isn't always cool. But decide what you want for your legacy and let your music speak. And those people who are supposed to ingest that content will over time. Overall summary, hip-hop needs balance. Hip-hop needs the Lil Pumps just like it needs the Joey Badasses. And I think there needs to be a wide range all throughout where everyone respects everyone for their craft. However, authenticity is more important than record sales. Authenticity is way more important than record sales. If you're being authentic in what it is you do, I can't tell you not to pop perks if that's what you want to do. Like, all right, bro, whatever. I'm not going to. I'm an adult. My prefrontal cortex is developed. I ain't worried about you influencing me to do it too. I can listen to it and understand that it's just a song, just like I can watch a movie where someone is getting chopped up and know that it's special effects. You know what I mean? But just be aware of what you're doing in your demographic, and that's how you save other people's lives. You know what I mean?
But I feel like, you know, I totally agree with what you said. You know, if that's what you're doing, then by all means, you know, rap about what you're doing. But I do feel like, you know, a lot of these high school kids, you know, 8th grade, 7th grade, they see, like, they don't have that mindset.
Whose fault is it though?
And that's what I was going to say. Is that the parenting or is that just, you know,
it's the parenting.
Society?
It's the parenting. I think traditionally kids, I don't want to be wrong in what I say statistically, but I'll tell you what I saw growing up. When it was the 70s and the 80s, it was a lot harder to get to music than it is now. But parents were a lot stricter than they were. The closer to where we are now in history, the younger the parents are. And the younger the parents are, the more justifications they make for playing certain things around their kids. They don't really step up and do the bare minimum of going to the settings and putting on parental controls before they hand on the tablet. They just press play because they want the kid to sit still and they let the tablet raise their children. That's their fault. My mom didn't let me listen to music with cursing, and she wasn't the best. Well, she was. What's up, mama? But I'm saying, like, that didn't make her mother of the year because she didn't let me listen to words with curse words. That wasn't even the whole point in why she did it. The whole point was this is for people of a certain age. You are not old enough to ingest it, period. And that was just the truth. She didn't give a damn about whether or not people at the school was listening to it. She ain't care.
Yeah.
Listen to it at school if you want, but it's not coming back
In
home.
my house, yeah.
And the reality is that was the best thing that she could have done for me personally. I'm very impressionable. It would have been so easy for me to take a different route.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Mm-hmm.
So the parents nowadays need to stop blaming the rappers. And I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and advocate for pill popping.
Yeah.
I don't support the idea of it. However, you can tell a whole bunch of grown people to pill pop and they will or they won't.
Yeah.
Kids, however, are a little bit more impressionable, and if you're going to let your kids listen to the music, you cannot ask the artist to censor themselves. That's a contradiction. Be a parent and turn off the tablet, or set the parental controls, or tell your kids no. What you scared of? Stop being a little. Yo, man, I'm on camera. Like,
no, you
like,
good. Go ahead.
I wish my kids would. Well, I don't have no kids, so but I mean, when I do, like, I mean, it's like, look. It's not as difficult as everyone makes it seem to just put that effort in. People, it's literally a couple buttons. You can keep your kids censored from that stuff. I'm not gonna. For me to say that there's an issue with people talking about pill popping is for me to contradict myself when the Supreme Court went against NWA for their lyrics or 2 Live Crew. There's a freedom of speech. There's a freedom of speech. Fuck the police. That was a real movement,
right.
And that was a real movement for the community back in the 90s. And they fought for the right to say what it is they had to say about what they did. They got some money that grew out of it. All of them are successful for the most part, and they on to some different stuff. They're not in the streets still.
Yeah. And
kids are not smart enough to see the fact that people grow out of it, and they might mess up and cut their life short before they get a chance to grow out of it. And it's mostly on the parents. It's not on the kids.
I agree. And speaking on like, you know, we were just talking about with popping these pills. Yeah. I do feel like a lot of the reason why a lot of younger artists in the game now are doing these things like popping these pills. I feel like it's not talked about a lot within the Black community. Mental health. Yeah. I feel like I've been reading a lot of artists are struggling with depression or you know whatever the case may be, and I feel like it's not talked about, like I said, within the Black community, especially within men. Yeah. Mental health, you know, you just growing up in the streets, you know, if you're a Black man, you don't that's not something that's talked about within your community, your group of friends, you know. So I do feel like mental health is a big thing. And I feel like it definitely plays a part in a lot of issues that are affecting us. So I want to ask, what are your opinions and what are your thoughts on, you know, mental health within our Black community?
My thoughts on mental health in the Black community. I was having a discussion with someone earlier this week about how important it is to be vulnerable about how you feel, especially in the community, especially in the Black community. There really isn't too many examples of who's the face of social media right now? Like, let's really have a real discussion about who it is advocating for mental health and who's advocating for speaking your mind and being honest and being truthful. Instagram is really just a highlight reel. It's a magazine. It's a tabloid. Yeah. You're tapping into people's lives and trying to see what they are. Magazine. Yeah, back in the 80s, they just would get that junk from the grocery cart. Like when they pulling up to the shopping cart line and they see the tabloid with somebody's name on it that they don't know, they just want to peek into somebody else's life. Yeah. You got to understand, Instagram is like a highlight reel. It's not supposed to, well, it's not that it's not supposed to, but people don't use it to talk about the best and the worst of what they go through. So to let social media dictate the way that you move based off of what you see other people doing, it's kind of like taking one ingredient out of somebody's life and incorporating it into your blueprint. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. And I think there's some feedback.
Yeah, I figured that too.
I'm not sure.
I think it was.
But basically, I was trying to get footage for it as well.
I know. I don't know. I've never done that. So sorry if you guys heard that. Maybe you try putting it back. I'm not sure. It was the phone.
It's all good. It's all good. Like it's a highlight reel. It's not. People don't use it for. People should not use it as an ultimate guide for who you need to be and who you don't need to be. I think who you follow is also important on social media. if you follow someone who doesn't inspire you, you're taking in somebody's life that is not